hi everyone, welcome to the May Circle meeting for Teachers of the Planet. Today we are focusing on greening communities. We're really excited to be here, and we know that people are still joining, so welcome to those people who are joining us now. I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Sarah Horley. I'm one of the co-hosts of Teachers of the Planet, one of the co-leads, sorry, and I'm representing the Learning Planet. I also have Andy Cunningham, I think, is here, and from Aga Khan Foundation, and also Lennart Kuntze from Teach for All. I think they're waving at you now, so you should be able to see them. If we could go to the next slide, please. So thank you for joining us, and I've just got a couple of housekeeping things to point out to everyone. So we love hearing from all of you, so please introduce yourselves in the chat. You're part of a community, so we'd love seeing your faces. Please turn your cameras on if you can. If not, no worries at all. And also, very importantly, please could you select at the bottom of the screen where it says interpretation, either English or Spanish, and you can see on the screen that we have that written in Spanish. I'm sorry, that's my Google Translate there. Hopefully it makes sense. So please choose either the English channel or the Spanish channel so that you can hear the live translation if needed. We've got some great presenters. We really want you to be able to hear from them. Later on, talking about the community aspect, later on, we are hoping that we will have time for some Q&A. So please bear with us until the end so that you can take part in that, not just in the chat, but live. And yeah, I think we'll just give it one more minute so that people, because people are still being admitted from the waiting room. So take that time to choose your channel. And when the chat opens, please introduce yourselves. Okay, we're always tight for time, so I'm going to move on. But people are still trickling in. So if I could go to, if you go to the next slide, please, Kathy. So just a bit of a recap for those of you who are joining us and from other circle meetings, and if you're new to us, just to explain a bit about Teachers for the Planet. So we know that teachers want to support students in learning about climate education, but we know that teachers often feel unsupported or lacking in resources to do this. But we know that teachers want to also play a critical role in responding to the global response to around climate education. So we are raising up the voice of teachers in two ways. Firstly, by building a community where teachers can have a voice, they can inspire each other, and they can come together with climate change, the climate change community, to inspire action. And we know that teachers are already doing fantastic work on climate change education, and this is a chance online for teachers to share that great practice. However, we're also taking our community to in-person events. We'll be in Porto next month at the Schools 2030 Global Forum, and we're taking some of these great solutions to the climate change education crisis with us. The other strand of our programme is producing an online repository of 100 climate change education solutions. And really excitingly, they are the best climate change solutions that we are coming across, and we are taking them to COP28 to show to policymakers. So that is how you can have a voice in this debate and this agenda around climate change education. And we're going to make those that repository completely free for teachers and anyone else who wants to access them to have access, completely free, completely open access. So we're really excited about that. If I could just go to the next slide, please. Kathy, can you go to the next? Thank you. So as I said, you're part of a community that Teach for the Planet community. It's already huge. We have members from over 70 countries, and this month we've been joined by members from China and from Senegal, as well as some other countries, but they were the ones that I saw most recently. Yeah, we're really excited that the community is growing. We want to keep it growing. We want people from all over the world, all different geographies, contexts, interesting places to bring their ideas to this repository and to the community. Today is, so the 25th of May is Africa Day, and we're really lucky to be joined from Africa by two of our presenters later on, and we're looking forward to hearing from them in this session. I am going to hand over to Lennart, who is now going to...
If you go back to the slide deck. It's great seeing everyone, and I'm really excited, as Sarah mentioned. My name is Lennart. I'm the Global Head of Climate Education and Leadership at Teach for All. And I'm just really thrilled for this session around greening communities. And just as a quick recap, greening communities is one of the 4 pillars of UNESCO's Greening Education Partnership. And the way that greening communities is defined is to engage the entire community by integrating climate education and lifelong learning, and in particular through community centers and learning cities. And something that's very related to that is the notion of a whole school approach to climate change or to environmental sustainability. And that means an approach where learning around climate change and around environmental sustainability is embedded across the whole school, rather than being taught in only individual subjects. And this is also where the needs of learners, staff, and the wider community are addressed, not only within the curriculum, but across the whole school and the whole learning environment of the school. And this implies collective and collaborative action in and by a school community. And UNESCO sort of very aptly summarizes that as a school culture of sustainability, where there's partnerships between the school and the wider community, where sustainability plays a large part in the operation and the facilities of the school, where it plays a large part in school governance, as well as, of course, in teaching and learning and reorienting that towards environmental sustainability. And we're going to hear from 3 different presenters today who are all touching on this notion of how are we engaging a wider community, starting from the school, but then also a lot of other educational institutions around environmental sustainability and climate action. And this topic is, of course, vital because the whole school approach and a greening community approach is central for student learning about the climate crisis, and that is in an integrated way across subjects, holistic and locally rooted. So today we want to learn from these concrete initiatives that we have here with us today, including the accounts of the whole school approach in Zimbabwe, for example, Katja from UNESCO sharing about UNESCO's ASP network, especially in Uganda, and then Joshua and Nicola sharing from S.A.L.V.E. International. And I want to recognize also that, as already mentioned by Sarah, today is Africa Day. So something that you will see is that across these different presentations, we have a strong focus on local action in the context of African countries. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to our first speaker, who's Katja, who is a project officer in the unit for ASP.NET at UNESCO. ASP.NET stands for the Associated Schools Network, and ASP Network builds school capacity to become living laboratories and drivers for change. And they, for example, have a pilot project for implementing a whole school approach to climate change in 25 countries and across 258 schools, with roughly 14,000 teachers and roughly 231,000 students. So this is a really large scale we are talking about, and we're really thrilled to have Katja with us. So Katja, I hand it over to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lennart. Hi, everybody. It's great to meet you today. I'm really excited to be with you and to follow the conversations and learn from your practices and experiences. I've prepared a very short PowerPoint just to share with you how we've worked at UNESCO and through the Associated Schools Network on implementing a whole school approach. I'm not sure if I should be sharing my PowerPoint or if we should just move on to the next slide and it's integrated in your overall PowerPoint presentation. Thank you so much. Wonderful. All right, so we can go to the next slide. So I'll try to keep it short. The UNESCO Associated Schools Network is one of UNESCO's oldest and largest networks. It englobes 12,000 educational institutions from all levels of education in 182 countries. So members are from pre-primary, primary, secondary, technical and vocational, and even from teacher education institutions. Our overall mission is to empower learners through transformative education to lead healthy lives, promote sustainable development, and engage with the world as creative and responsible global citizens. So you see this is very much in line with the SDG agenda and especially SDG 4.7. On the next slide, we'll have an overview of the pilot project that we conducted already a few years back, but it's made a huge impact in participating schools. And schools are continuing to this day to implement a whole school approach to climate change. Lennart already mentioned it. We had 25 countries across all different regions in this pilot project, 258 schools, and 230,000 students and almost 14,000 teachers. We used a guide, which you can see in the middle, Getting Climate Ready, a guide for schools on climate action, which really sort of gets at what the whole school approach is, how it can work, what kind of steps to take to start implementing it. And then you can see on the right side, this is sort of the conceptual framework of this whole school approach and for creating this school culture of sustainability through climate action. So not only taking action in the teaching and learning domain, but in the school governance, the facilities and operations, and the community partnerships. I would love to play a short trailer that really shows what's been going on in the schools, and that will say it so much better than I can on static PowerPoint slides.
Kathy, it's the 2-minute 40 trailer.
Yes, sorry, I just need to reshare with my sound, I think. So I'll do that in a second. There we go.
In 2016, UNESCO launched a unique and ambitious pilot project which encouraged schools to make climate change a priority in every part of school life.
This project is about really trying to transform an entire school, of mobilizing every single actor in a school, but also the community around it.
258 schools from 25 countries around the world decided to take action on climate change by engaging in this innovative project.
This project has helped us with raising awareness about the issues that we are facing today in this world.
Now our students became aware enough to tell their parents on the importance of recycling, on the importance of thinking environmentally before doing any action.
Les choses que l'on a le plus apprécié dans ce projet, mes camarades et moi, sont les activités en plein air, le fait de recycler des bouteilles, des pneus pour en faire un jardin suspendu et l'activité manuelle à travers la peinture qui pourra peut-être nous servir dans notre futur.
生徒同士が協力して少しでもゴミを減らそうとしている姿勢が見られたのがとても嬉しかったです。
This project helps us strengthen the bond between students and teachers.
People are motivated, people are educated, people are aware of the climate change.
Because it is a whole school approach, it involved everyone to participate in the project. So everyone has got a role, everyone is doing something, everyone is thinking, everyone is creating.
My school is becoming more eco-friendly every day.
Change begins with an individual, and as an individual,
I believe that I should be empowered to protect the environment.
Y queremos que esto no solo se quede en lo que es nuestra comunidad, sino que también pueda trascender el municipio, la provincia y a nivel nacional y también de manera internacional.
There is an enormous wave of optimism that comes out of a project like this, because you see that pools in a very short time can be transformed so that they motivate and empower students to change their behavior and take action for the planet.
From my school, I hope that our program continues on and spreads around the world so people can actually know the importance of keeping the environment clean.
Great, thank you so much for sharing the video.
The greatest.
And maybe going back to the PowerPoint, I just want to share with you some sort of overall findings from the pilot project in the 4 different areas of this whole school approach framework. So in the upper, on the school governance, you can see that around 95% of the participating schools set up climate action teams. These are composed of students, teachers, administrators, support staff. So really trying to engage a wide range of different actors in the school community. And then,
Kathy, sorry to interrupt, Katja. I think I'll take over sharing my screen so that because there seem to be a couple of issues.
I think it's working now, but yeah, if you'd like to go ahead, you can.
Okay. And Kathy, if you could perhaps just spotlight people when they're speaking, that would be really helpful. Sorry, now mine is being a bit slow. Oh, sorry, Kathy, perhaps it's better if we go back to you.
Not to worry, I think there's a slight lag because it was working for me. Yeah, I'll try again. Sorry, Katja.
No worries, it's a classic in these meetings. We always have the challenge of the technology online, but it's working.
It's working pretty great.
Okay, so back to how schools took action in terms of school governance. So they set up these climate action teams. They developed climate action plans. So that's really important to have a vision for how to engage the community in this endeavor, because it's not something that can be done overnight, and it really requires a lot of engagement. And then they also developed for the first time, a school vision on climate action. In terms of teaching and learning, most of the schools integrated education for sustainable development and specifically climate change education in their curriculum. And most of the schools also teach it through at least 4 different subjects. And so this is really going with this integrated approach, not just having a new subject on the topic, but really integrating across existing topics. For facilities and operations, most greened their facilities in one way or another. Many worked on litter and waste management, on water management, health and well-being initiatives, responsible consumption and production. And then I think now I want to get to the most important part, since the focus today is on greening communities. And on the next slide, you can see how the schools also engaged with communities. So 82% of the schools that participated formalized at least one partnership with a community actor. Actually, most had several partners. It could be with other schools, with neighborhood associations, with local government, environmental groups, media, local business, universities, community centers. There was a whole array of different community actors. And the schools mostly engaged them through campaigns, caravans, carnivals, art exhibitions, film festivals, songwriting, and debate competitions. So they got really creative to get the community engaged and active and moving. I just want to give one very concrete example of what this looks like. So on the next slide, you can see an example from Uganda, the Ikira Education Center. it really shows this importance and also the impact that you can have when you build these school community partnerships and you really try to engage the community in sustainability practices. So the school works on a very wide range of activities: soap making, tailoring, banana plantations, tree planting, waste management. They have a biogas, which has now spread to the entire school community around the school as well. They have a solar project with solar cookers. They're greening the compound. They have a rainwater harvesting approach. They plant drought-resistant crops. They make chalks. So you see a nice picture in the middle of the students making chalks. And they also make soap and sanitizers and have a medicinal garden. So you can see the huge range of incredible activities the school does. So it's really integrated in its community. And it really tries to, bring this idea of a school being part of the community and to integrate climate education in lifelong learning. And on the next slide, we have, I just want to talk about, the soap making, because it was really incredible how that sort of started at the school and what it's come to now. So in 2015, the school was visited by some representatives from the Ugandan parliament, because they were identified as a quite an interesting case. And then they saw the motivation of the principal, of the teachers, of the students, and they connected them with the Ugandan Industrial Research Institute. And the school by then had already had a small sort of program for making their own soap on the school campus, but then the Technology Industrial Research Institute, they came in and they provided them with machines, but they also conducted trainings at the school for how to make the soap more environmentally friendly. And then they officially certified the school soap and thereby really enabled further collaborations. So for example, after COVID-19 broke out, there was a shortage of soap and liquid soap also at the hospitals. So the school started collaborating with the local hospital to produce hand sanitizer and soap for the hospital. And they also, in that whole collaboration, worked with a local NGO who also supported the school, the Kinderhilfswerk Uganda, so a German NGO that was present. And you see one really nice picture where you see a lot of community actors involved, especially teachers and parents, who getting regular refresher courses on the soap making and how to get involved in this. So yeah, I think it's a really fantastic example of how to really connect the school with the community and to really bring it together and have an approach to schooling that's really focused on real issues that we see today, like climate change, and at the same time catering to clear community needs and to just bring it together. And now, just to wrap up, a few maybe of the biggest success factors that we see for a whole school approach to work. I think one of the most important is really this strong leadership for driving this kind of change, and for this whole school approach to effectively be implemented. The importance of this clear vision for why and how the approach will benefit the school community, and communicating that well to all the different actors to get them engaged, to get them inspired. And this can also really benefit sustainability of such an effort over time. Because what we've seen as quite critical in this project is that a lot of schools did a lot of efforts and introduced innovations and new kind of practices and really changed business as usual. But then it was very difficult to sustain it over time and to move from these ad hoc innovations to regular routine practices. And here, this whole school approach really needs to be perceived as a long-term commitment rather than a short-term project. And for that, it's useful to develop, for example, a sustainability plan that includes ongoing training, continuous evaluation, and also the integration of the approach into the school's overall strategic planning. So really a strong integration in the leadership. Then I would say the most important is the stakeholder engagement. So really involving all stakeholders in the school and its community, teachers, students, parents, wider community actors, NGOs, local government. It's really essential to the success of this whole school approach, and to engage them from the start in the planning, in all decision making, in the implementation processes, to foster the ownership and also the commitment. Yeah, and it can, I think, really enhance the success of it, because it can, you know, it can provide additional resources, it can bring in expertise, and it can really bring in opportunities for students to enrich also their learning experience, to make it applicable to their context and immersed in their reality. And then the last, and I think that's not the most important, but it's definitely a really important starting point, is the curriculum integration. So that it's ensuring that the principles and also the practices are really woven into the teaching and learning process. And that really helps a cohesive and consistent approach throughout the school. But I would say that's more of a starting point of a whole school approach, to then go further. So I'll end with that. I'm really excited for hearing the other presenters' presentations and insights, and then to engage with you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much to you, Katja. That was a really inspiring presentation, and as you see, there's been plenty of chat in the chat here. So there's some questions, and we ask people to hold their thoughts and hold their questions until after the 3 presentations, and then we'll hopefully have some time for Q&A. But we also will most likely share the slides, so that's okay with all the speakers after this event. So you'll be able to sort of go through the slides and engage more with that. But thank you so much, Katja. And I think this perfectly set us up for the 2 other presentations that are very concrete cases. And I loved how you moved from, you know, a whole school approach of really building a school community that is very committed and is integrating environmental sustainability across the different operations and across the teaching and learning. And then you move to even engaging the wider community, the school sort of as a center from where to engage a wider group of community. So thank you so much for sharing. And we will move next to Edson Dongo, who is very much a practitioner of this whole school approach. And he's been leading a whole school approach in his time as a Teach for Zimbabwe fellow in the Chiredzi district in southern Zimbabwe. And he's also then used his experience, his knowledge to develop a teacher training for other fellows of Teach for Zimbabwe to make them ready to teach about climate change in their schools and to build a whole school approach within their different communities. So Edson, I'll pass it over to you, and we're excited to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lennart. Firstly, I would like to maybe celebrate with you our Africa Day as Africans. It's saddening that climate change is wreaking havoc in almost all of our marginalized areas, thus impacting our educational systems. So as we celebrate this Africa Day, today we are celebrating it in style. We are saying to all our stakeholders, to all partners in education, to saying now, it's now high time we green our spaces, we green our communities, we green our learning, so that we achieve equitable and holistic education in the 21st century. So happy Africa Day to you all. Then moving on to the presentation of today. As Teach for Zimbabwe, a partner to more than 60 global partners, Teach for All, we are now fully geared as an organizational strategy to make sure that we green our more than 50 schools are dotted across Zimbabwe. But today, I'm just going to briefly explain what we have done so far at a school in Chiredzi district, one of our placement school. So we have used what we call the whole schools approach to climate change and environmental sustainability. How did we do that? We used the 4 holistic areas mentioned by United Nations, that of greening capacity and readiness, green learning, greening school grounds, and greening the community. So you cannot separate the school from the community. So the school will act as a resource for the community, and the community will in return work as a resource for the school. With that intertwined, we have green communities. You can move to the next slide. So, as an approach, what is my relationship to the system? The whole school's approach answers this question. What is my relationship to the system? What is the relationship between the school, the learners, the teachers, the local leaders, and the overall community? How now do I influence the system? How does the school influence the system? Then there are issues to do with empathy and connectedness. What is my community? The learners, the teachers, the local leaders need to have that personal identity that creates value and emotional attachment now to the environment. Then leading to action. What can we do as a community? As teachers, what can we do? As learners, what can we do? As local leaders, as environmental officers, as RX officers, what can we do to our community? And now, what do we learn from it? And what other communities are doing? We now incorporate a whole systematic approach to solving community problems. In this case, climate change. Next slide. Right. Then we go down now to the classroom. As you know, our learners are our future leaders. They are our future RX officers, our future headmen, our future ministers of environment. So it starts in the classroom. What do we need to develop in the kids? We need to develop that critical mind and systematic thinking. How do we do that? We do project-based activities with a practical hands-on aspect that will make them realize the agency at hand. So in other words, we are reconnecting the sense of place and reward inquiry. They will know that climate change is real. It's affecting agricultural production. It's affecting our health sector. It's affecting our water management. That will give or empower the learner in coming up with tangible solutions to problems. So the kids will now reflect and will take action. Next slide. And also, this whole school approach takes into consideration issues to do with curriculum, teaching and learning. And in our teaching and learning, as the whole school approach, we need also to involve parents and communities in our school projects. For example, if we look at that picture, we went to a local cultural living museum. It's called Kumbako. whereby our learners were learning a lot about how the indigenous knowledge systems help in fighting climate change. As you know, our environment as Africans has got this spiritual connection to our cultural norms and values. For example, I can give you an example. Some trees in some areas, they are named as sacred. Some of our animals, we use them for totemic values, giving them that power to control our natural systems. So that focus of trying to integrate indigenous knowledge systems will also help now that collective leadership aspect we want for the community. And that also helps to strengthen student participation in and around the community. And also strengthening the informal learning part. As you know, if you try to formalize everything in the classroom, it becomes monotonous and boring. So this exposure to the local community and also integrating some of our teaching and learning into the community, it will help now for the learners to identify issues that are affecting the community that can also be solved at a school level. Next slide.
Edson, could I ask you to try to wrap up in the next 2 to 3 minutes, just to go over the examples?
Okay. Then, and also issues also to consider using the whole schools approach, school policies. The school policies must be favorable, and also everyone must play a part. So in other words, the school must provide a way of everyone to also participate in drafting of school policies and those. Yes, next slide. Then as you can see on that slide, those are some of our activities. We are we green our verandas. You see kids, we're modeling a wind energy production. Then we've got our solar system. Then that's a model house with a solar panel. All those activities, teachers, learners play a collective approach in terms of trying to green our schools, at the same time greening our communities. Next slide. And also you can see our infrastructure there. You've got a water harvesting system. And also you can see our buildings are green. We are trying to make sure that the whole school represents a green learning area. Next slide. You can see we've got a seed bank. We've got a plastic bottle reuse of plastic bottles, repurposing of plastic bottles. We have created hanging gardens. We have decorated our flower beds using plastic material. And all these learnings, these learners will take this home. So at the end of the day, you realize that the whole community will be green. So in other words, we are saying we are trying to green attitudes, values, and behaviors of kids, and also the community, the teachers, private stakeholders. Next slide. Yes, then you need also to partner stakeholders. For example, in this case, you can see our learners are receiving certificates from our local partner, a conservancy in our local area. So we are also engaging other stakeholders to join Teach for Zimbabwe in this fight against climate change. We are trying to model all Teach for Zimbabwe schools to use this green schools approach. We green our readiness and capacity, we green our learning, we green our school grounds, and we green our community. Yes, next slide. I thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you, Edson. And your passion and all the energy is just it's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What I shared in the chat is also a link to a video that captures much more of these activities. I would love to just, provide much more time for people to learn about this, but seeing, from energy production to learning little prototypes for renewable energy, to water conservation, to sustainable agriculture, to all these kinds of really lifelong skills that students are learning there and that are student-led. It's just fascinating as an example. So thank you, Edson, for sharing that with us, and also the wider efforts of Teach for Zimbabwe in this space. So I'm going to move us on to our third presentation, which is from Joshua Ariho and Nicola Sansom from S.A.L.V.E. International. And they will showcase some of the great work that S.A.L.V.E. does around teaching permaculture and disseminating it through the children who return to their communities in Uganda. So this again in the spirit of today's Africa Day. Once again, happy Africa Day, and over to you, Joshua and Nicola.
Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm a permaculture at S.A.L.V.E. International, a small NGO working in Uganda to help children living on the streets to be able to leave the streets and return safe, caring family homes and education. Next slide. We are working under a program called permaculture, where we design crops and grow them into sacks, plastic bottles, keyboards, composting as a way of providing manure. And we also practice terracing, contour line development for water and soil conservation. We deal with children as they are in our care, as we transit from their families back again. As we train them, we help them as a way of farming, but a way of looking at their life and how they can work with the planet, not against it. When they are under our care, we provide them with a package of seeds and tools. When they are going home, they can keep practicing skills and teaching others too. We help families with identify as having good source of income, so that they have interest in farming, so that they can have a good standard of living. We also help them in empowering them so that they can maintain the environment as green. We also work in harmony with the climate and planet at large. We plant our crops as a way and a source of food to our children, and also source of income to the people. I will come Auntie Nicola.
Next slide, please. So yeah, like Joshua was saying, we believe that the permaculture principles are a really good way of teaching children about greening the planet, and just a very positive way of looking at the world and thinking about how they can work in harmony with the planet rather than against it. So one thing we've actually done is build our classrooms in this beautiful round hut style, which is a traditional building style that's used in Uganda, but we've instead made our classrooms out of plastic bottles. So this classroom actually involved 3,800 plastic bottles, and they're all filled with sand to be used as the bricks. So children who live on the streets in Uganda are the recycling system. And one of the ways they often survive on the streets is by collecting used plastic bottles that they sell for a little bit of money. So we wanted to turn this around and make our classrooms be recycled too, and be using these plastic bottles that the children in the past had used for their survival, but now they're being used to help them in their education. And we also love the fact that the classrooms are a round shape, which is very inclusive. Yeah, the children love these buildings, not just when it's time for class. You'll often find them going in and out of the buildings at all times, and just using them for play and for leisure and things as well. And we found that they've really inspired very many people as well, that you can build in a different way that is like recycling and is greener and is more climate friendly. Okay, next slide, and back to Joshua.
Thank you. When children are under our care, we have a program, rearing, where we empower them. They have a skills of rearing animals. We also have a project of chicken, where they take care of them, learn skills how to care for them. When these animals are under care, they feed on weeds, and their waste are provided. We use them as manure. We turn dirty manure into a liquid manure, which can easily be absorbed by crops so that they can look healthy and provide good nutrition. They also provide health to the children as they feed on their products as a way of nutrition. Next slide. We practice agroforestry and fruit tree planting. For example, mangoes, oranges, and avocados. As you see, those are children. They are now practicing how to grow fruits. For example, that was a mango tree. Those in sacks, we are after practicing grafting as the way of propagating those plants. Those trees help in providing soil stable and providing shade to the children, especially here where we have a challenge of climate change. Every time temperature rising, so during those hot weather conditions, children go under those shades. It also helps in charcoal deforestation and greening the community we live in. So far, we have planted 5,533 trees in 30 schools and communities. These trees provide fruits to the younger children, and also they are a source of nutrition to the families. When children are resettled home, we provide them with trees, especially those who have areas where to plant them. We also teach children on how to graft fruits using the body fruit trees from the adult trees. When they are grafted, they take a short maturity rate, and due to this effect of climate change, we find that we can benefit from them within a short period of time. For the families that you have children have planted trees from, it helps them in increasing their nutrition in that community. Thank you. Welcome, Auntie Nicola.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously, as you know, we've only been given a little time to talk with you today, and we can't share the breadth of everything that we're doing, but hopefully we've tried to give you a little taste of the work we're doing in Uganda. But I'd like to highlight that on our website, which I think I saw the link was being shared in the chat, like we have some lesson plans about different topics related to our organization's work, and there are some specific permaculture related lesson plans there that they're either for you to use as they are, or they can be adapted as works for you in your different environment as well. But we think it's a nice chance for people to learn with real case studies and real examples about like what's happening in different parts of the world to help with greening schools and communities. Yeah, like basically we think the more we can inspire the younger generation to take a lead in this and to take a lead in greening the world, the better. And we love the fact that what we're doing is working with some of the children that lots of people in the community think are a problem. These are children who've been living on the streets, who lots of people associate with crime and with drugs. And now instead they're the ones coming back to the communities with all these ideas about greening the communities and all these skills in permaculture that they can share. And that's one of the key things we actually emphasize with all the children that we're working with and the families. Because like Joshua was saying earlier, we work with both the children and then later if their families also show interest, we offer training for them as well. And in all of that, we ask them to share that wider in their community. So hopefully it's having a ripple effect going wider and wider. So we'd really like to encourage you to please also, if possible, try to share more about this in your schools and communities as well. Yeah, if there's time for questions at the end, we both love to receive questions. And I'll also put our email addresses in the chat in case anyone has any further questions to ask for this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joshua and Nicola. That was really inspiring. And I think what I'm leaving off with from all three presentations is this notion of a really integrated, holistic approach that is connecting to so many other issues. That we talked about food, we talked about health, we talked about mental well-being, we talked about inclusion, we talked about so many aspects that are just fundamental for the social glue that societies and communities need, and how all of your activities are so well connecting to that and building this integrated approach that is not only addressing the climate crisis, environmental sustainability, but so many other things. So thank you for sharing that, and also sharing and how far that is, you know, really engaging the wider community and at the same time shaping really well-rounded individuals that can be agents of change in the future. So thank you all. And I think, Nicola, what you just left us off with is just so powerful that I think now trying to start a conversation in the remaining time would probably not do justice to any of what all of the three of you shared. So I would just encourage you all to check out what's in the chat and to see the love and also the sort of connectedness of the many different initiatives that are represented in this group here. With that, I would probably pass it over back to Sarah to close us out for today. And just once again, thank you all.
Hi everyone. Such inspiring stories to hear today. I feel very privileged to have watched the three presenters today. So interesting to hear about the community influence on schools, and then finally to hear about children influencing their communities. It's always a two-way street, but it seems to be really illustrated in the different presentations. I am going to move on because very excitingly, we are opening our call for your solutions. So we've just heard about three amazing initiatives that are going on at the moment around greening communities. We know that our networks are full of community members who are greening their communities, and we want to know about those solutions. So please look at your screens now, get your phones out. On the left-hand side, you can see the QR codes for English submissions. So the top QR code is the English QR code for submitting your solutions if you are submitting in English. If you see on the right-hand side, there is the Spanish QR code. The top one is the one you want. So if you're working on a project, if you know someone who's working on a project, that is where you submit it. Underneath the lower QR code. So again, we've got one in English and one in Spanish. These are our images that you can use to spread the word through your networks. We have a great community, but we know that you are connected to many more amazing educators. So please take those forms and spread them on social media, spread them through your networks. Let's reach as many inspirational teachers as we can. And when we say teachers, we mean that in a very loose way, people who are educating anyone from early years through to adult education. We want to gather as many solutions as possible. At the moment, we're particularly looking for community greening solutions, but we're still collecting solutions for the other pillars of the Greening Education Project. So any school, greening schools solutions, curriculum, or capacity building solutions are greatly received. So get those QR codes. And if you don't worry, if you don't have your phone on you, don't worry, we will be sending around those links for you to sign up later. And just to let you know, on that note, we will be sending around the recording of this. It will also be visible on YouTube, so you can tell other people in your networks to view this. And we'll be sending around the PowerPoint as well, so you can look at the slides, you can access the links that people have been talking about. The presenters, I just want to say thank you so much to Joshua, Nicola, Edson and Katja. You've been fantastic today. Also, thank you, Jorge, for translating into Spanish. That's been going on in the other channel. So for the last couple of minutes, if you have any questions, now is your chance to ask our amazing presenters anything that you want to know. And I can see lots of things there, so hopefully you're able to answer those presenters.